Y'all know what time it is, man. Welcome back to Hot Takes. It's the MMA series I'm doing where, as usual, my boys, y'all submit to me your MMA and UFC hot takes and controversial opinions, and we go over them. We see, do I agree or disagree? How hot of a take is it? Yada yada, okay? So grab your snacks. You want some gushers? Have some gushers. They're good. Get cozy and put on your People Forget Man cap because today we're going over another episode of Hot Takes. So just starting off with the first one we got here, coming from Darius Smith, and you got the Dare in your name like it's the Dare program. I respect that, saying that Hamza Chimaev beats every ranked heavyweight besides maybe Aspinall, maybe Almeida, and even those he would still have a chance. Now, brother, this is a hot take. This is literally my house is in flames. I'm reading this out loud, okay? If I say this take 3 times in the mirror, I'm going to turn into a blob, and Hamza Chimaev is going to come and find me and beat me up. But honestly, despite it being a really hot take, I don't think it's completely wild. Like, when I'm really looking at heavyweight, man, we're going to get to this later in the video, but I truly believe it is the worst division that we got right now, okay? I know that some divisions are on the weaker end of things than others, but genuinely, you have guys that are 1-1 in the UFC, or people that are 0-1 in the UFC, and they're in the rankings, 0-5, and they're in their last 5, and they're in the top 10. So heavyweight is a bit of a blob fest, and I think that Hamza Chimaev's underrated striking, maybe he could fucking hang in the pocket with these guys despite them having huge blob power. And also, I think his wrestling, he's so strong on the ground. If he's able to efficiently control Usman for part of that fight and DDP for 5 rounds, and he's young and just getting better, I don't know who in middleweight is going to be able to beat him or at least stand a chance within the grappling. He seems like genuinely one of the greatest grapplers that we've ever seen, man. He's just so strong, so dominant, really is good at hunting for the submissions on the ground. And against these heavyweights, man, I think that he could find it against some of them. Like, honestly, against Martin Tybura or against like a Mick Parkin or a Taliesin Teixeira, a Valter, goddamn Walker, god damn it, Bobby, I would be picking Hamzat Chimaev to beat them. I understand that there's a huge, people forget, man, a huge difference between a 265 or even if they're a blob or even if they're unathletic or even if they're slow in the mud, whatever. Hamzat Chimaev used to fight at 170, dog, okay? And yes, he was going life and death to make it there, but that's a real thing. Daniel, I really believe that Hamzat Chimaev, I really believe this guy can beat everyone at heavyweight. I genuinely think that the size does matter. Pause. I think that Aspinall would knock him out and just be too well-rounded and too much. And I think that he would be able to just stuff the takedowns of Chimaev. Chimaev's wrestling is great, but Aspinall is too big and too strong. And even a guy like Cyril Gane, I just think Gane is too good on the feet, at least for heavyweight standards. I think he's going to be stronger than Chimaev in terms of just striking. And I understand that the takedown defense for Gane isn't all that. He's not the greatest grappler in the world, especially for heavyweight, which says a lot, but I think that even then, a size difference does matter. Like Volkov, Pavlovich, Blades, Almeida even, like I can't confidently or even pick Chimaev at all. Maybe if they were going to scrap tomorrow, I would pick Chimaev, okay? But I'm not even going to be thinking about that. It's just something that's in that random Marvel what-if timeline. But honestly, I think Chimaev could be able to beat pretty much everybody outside of like that Sergey Spivak, Derek Lewis level and beyond. Okay, yes, I might pick Chimaev, but I genuinely think that I know heavyweight is pretty down bad right now. Again, it's the worst division in my opinion, but I still think that the size, and I feel like that these guys are so hard hitting on the feet, and I just feel like that they're going to have that bigger cage presence. I feel like it might be too much for even somebody who is as good on the ground as Chimaev is, okay? 205, the light heavyweights are a way different story. I'd be picking Chimaev to beat most of them, but honestly, specifically for heavyweight, I feel like if a guy used to be at 170 and now he's moved up to heavyweight and was going to take on these guys, especially someone as good as Aspinall, it's like the anti-Jared Cannonier, and that worked out for Cannonier, but that's moving a heavyweight down to 170, not vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So this is a hot take. I see what you're saying, and I can respect it, but I'm gonna disagree for the most part. You know what I'm saying? But I see what you're saying. Moving on to the next one we got here, coming from Gabriel Jenkins, saying that there is not a single light heavyweight right now that beats Ankalaev or Pereira. The only light heavyweights that can defeat them is each other. It truly is some Luffy versus Kaido, some Goku versus Vegeta. I'm sorry, too much. I'm sorry. But genuinely, it is one of just those rivalries where honestly, I can understand what you're saying. The actual fight that they did have was a very close decision. Not razor close, all right? It's not O'Malley versus Jan shit. Ankalaev was the clear winner, but I see what you're saying. They are in a bit of their own bubble, considering that Pereira knocked out a guy like Prochazka, who is so goddamn good, especially for the weight class. And Ankalaev's resume, I understand he's not the greatest champion in the world. I literally forgot he was the champion, but his resume's really adding up, man. He's beat a lot of guys in the rankings already. And the fact that he's like 31 and he's just now running into his prime and he just now got a hold of the belt, this guy can genuinely run the division for years. So honestly, I think this is a semi-hot take, but it's not too hot of a take. I feel like there's a solid amount of people that would agree with this. but not me, my friend. Y'all hear that? Let's go for that. No Bromo MMA says that Jiri beats Ank, and I agree. Y'all see this on your screen. I'm getting two birds with one stone, two hot takes with one chromosome, okay? We got a little bit of a 2-on-1 here. I'm going to be talking about both of these at once because they kind of play into each other, and I agree with No Bromo MMA. I was about to honestly say that, yeah, man, I really see what you're saying. I agree, but let's go for that. I now have master's degree, and now how I say, I am less on spectrum. Like, I genuinely think that Jiri Prochazka, master's degree and all, the one punch man himself, I really do believe that this guy has the perfect skill set, not the perfect skill set, but a really good stylistic matchup to go against Magomed and Ankalaev. I think that it genuinely might be one of those things where Pereira, Prochazka, and Ankalaev are all pointing at each other like the Spider-Man meme, and they're just going back and forth on who beats who. Like, I could see Pereira beating Ankalaev half the time. I could see Ankalaev beating Pereira half the time. I could see Jiri being a really good matchup to go against Ankalaev because he's such a heavy pressure fighter. He's constantly moving forward. He makes guys that aren't really used to that style in uncomfortable positions that they're not used to, man. And I think that Prochazka hits harder than a guy like Ankalaev. I think he's improving in the striking defense. I have head movement now. You know what I'm saying? I think the footwork, all this shit, it's slightly improving. Prochazka's young himself. He did get his hands on the goal, but unfortunately got injured before. So I think that genuinely it might be a thing where once Pereira retires, I think Jiri can genuinely become the champion. I think that Ankalaev, he can get scrappy. He does hit hard. He's primarily a boxer that knows how to mix it up in the wrestling, but Prochazka is way more of a grappler. I mean, this guy submitted Glover Teixeira, the literal teacher and founder of Pereira's MMA career. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Jiri is more well-rounded than Pereira. I think that Jiri could bring a very heavy pace and pressure that requires very big efforts and very big cardio and just dragging him into the later rounds because Jiri is durable as fuck. It really only takes a guy that is as precise and as powerful as Alex Pereira, and those fights were dog fights while they lasted. But to crack the chin of Jiri is a really hard thing to do, and I just think that that's something that only Pereira might be able to do. I think that Ankalaev hits hard, and again, he's more of a boxer than a wrestler, but I think that Jiri, man, again, I would be going with Jiri to beat Ankalaev. I'm honestly rooting for him to beat Khalil Pereira. I'm not picking him to win. Spoilers for you, UFC 320, but I hope that we do get to see Jiri versus Ank, man. And honestly, to go back to Jenkins' take, I do understand what you're saying. I think if Prochazka didn't exist, I really think that Pereira and Ankalaev, literally, I don't think there would be anybody else in the division I think that could give them too many problems in the grand scheme of things. I mean, people forget about Oz, Khanov, but genuinely, man, I really think that Jiri is the guy. And even then, he's 0-2 against Pereira, so that kind of proves Jenkins' point even more. But I'm standing my base that these guys are literally like the Spider-Man meme. They're going to keep switching off who beats who. I think it's unfortunate that Pereira's on the tail end of his career. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I agree for the most part with Gabriel, but if Jiri didn't exist, I'd be completely doing it. But unfortunately, I'm going to be agreeing with no Bromo here on this one. It's a hot take for sure. I don't think many people are going to be agreeing, but I think he gets it done. And overall, I see what y'all are saying, okay? Moving on up next to Phenomenal Wolf, sounding like AJ Styles gone wrong, saying that Paddy Pimblett is going to be the next lightweight champion, but not by beating Ilya. Ilya's going to go and chase Islam up another weight class, and Paddy will fight someone for the vacant title and win. Now, here's the thing. Here's the fucking thing, you guys. Phenomenal Wolf. I'm going to go to war for you guys. I genuinely can see this happening. I'm not even going to bullshit y'all. This is a hot take for sure. I feel like most people would disagree with this, but I can really see this happening. I'm not crazy about Topuria just moving up a weight class, winning a belt, defending it maybe once, and then moving up another weight class, defending it once, and then he's just going to retire. I don't really like that, man. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I love Topuria. I think he's great. He's very exciting. He's kind of the heel, but the babyface, the star of the UFC all in one. I don't know, but genuinely, I do like Topuria. I get excited for his fights. But in a way, man, I just wish he would kind of stick to lightweight. At least have Makhachev maybe move down. And even if he doesn't want to do that, I get wanting to chase him up while he's still here. Makhachev only has like 2 or 3 fights left. Possibly same with Topuria, for as depressing as that is. But genuinely, I could see Topuria going in and out with his UFC career, getting 2 or 3 more wins. Hopefully, we see the Makhachev fight. But if it is at 170, that does leave yet another vacant title up for grabs. We've seen it with featherweight this year. We've seen it with lightweight this year. And we've seen it just a lot repeatedly over the past couple years. The amount of vacant title bouts is kind of going up, whether via injury or moving up double champ status or not, I don't know. But I think Paddy Pimblett can genuinely sneak his way in to winning a vacant title, because if Topuria and Makhachev aren't in the division. I genuinely think that Paddy Pimblett, I mean, people forget, man, but I would be picking Paddy to beat a lot of the guys in the rankings. I know when you look at his resume, it's a bunch of old heads, okay? I'm not going to deny that. It's Unk after Unk and Grunkle after Grunkle, okay? Beating up, God damn it, Bobby. It's a good win, but I mean, come on. It's Bobby Green, okay? People have done that before, beating up old man Tony Ferguson, God help his soul, and then beating up, what was the most recent one? It was lowest IQ of all time, by ironically being the highest IQ he's ever used, but Michael Chandler, who's lost most of his fights in the UFC. I know the elite competition, but Paddy Pimblett, man, he's on a good win streak, but in the grand scheme of things, it just doesn't stand out too much besides the star power and the finishes and the statements he's trying to make, because ultimately he's got to fight somebody who's at least in the win column. And I think that going against Gaethje, I would pick Pimblett, to be honest. Going against Hooker, I would pick Pimblett, to be honest. Going against Oliveira, I know Oliveira is not in a win right now, but you get my point. He's in the top 5. I would be going with Pimblett. This might be crazy, but I think the only one that could beat him right now is Holloway or Saryuki, and I'd probably be picking those two, but I don't even know if they're going to give that fight to Paddy, to be honest. Like, maybe in a world I could see Holloway, hey, it is what it is, but I win one and I lose one, bro. He's only really losing to like the Volkanovskis and the Topurias. Whenever they are out of reach, Holloway usually fucking wins, okay? So I genuinely think that if Holloway's sticking around for that division, which he probably will be, people forget, man, genuinely, but he really is only like 32 or 33 years old right now. We still have a few more Holloway fights. Crazy to think that it's more than Makhachev and Topuria probably combined, but goes to show the longevity of Holloway. But my point is, if they really do a vacant title, 2026, 2027, I don't know what's going on with the Topuria timeline, okay? But we're in it, and I think that Paddy could really get one more fight and then earn his way to the vacant title. Or if just fate works out in a really weird-ass way, maybe even doesn't have to fight at all. Jesus, he probably will. I hope he does. I'm sick of people just sitting in the top 8, top 10 of lightweight right now. Top 15, it seems like, and they're just not fighting each other. I mean, Jesus, no lightweight has a fight booked right now besides the Rio main event. So, in general, man, I genuinely could see Paddy getting this one done. I think his skill set's a bit underrated. But also, I can see why people say it's overrated. When you look at the actual win streak itself, it doesn't really stand out, and you can really point out the asterisks with it. But I think that with the state of the division right now, I think Paddy really can squeeze his way, sneak his fucking way in, Uncle Dana Baldy style, letting him in through the front gates. I think he can get an opportunity for that vacant title. And I only can name a couple of people in the division that I can confidently say I think they beat Paddy. You know what I'm saying? So this is a hot take for sure. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can honestly see it happening for better or worse. Okay, I don't know if this is a dream or a nightmare or whatever, but we're going to move on to the next one we got here, coming from Mig Fizette's Mount Vittori. What the fuck? I don't know how to read this shit, okay? But saying that Aaron Pico would have beaten Movsar Evloev. Dude, this is a hot take, brother. Very hot take here, saying that Pico would have beaten Movsar. I genuinely think that if you compare a guy like Murphy's skill sets to Movsar Evloev, I mean, I'm not trying to say that they're the exact same or one's exactly way better or less better. What the fuck is it? Worse. 25 years old, and I forgot the word for worse. That's great. But anyways, I'm just saying, ballpark shooting here, I would say that they're in a pretty similar range in terms of their skill sets. And Pico, I think that the fight would go pretty similar against Evloev, but Evloev would take him to a 29-28. I just think that even Murphy's not that big of a finisher, but I think that even he knew the moment of the opportunity. I think that he knew he had to get some kind of finish to get the title shot, and I think he knew that he's been on a bit of a decision streak for the past few years, and genuinely, it worked out for Murphy. He's probably going to get the title shot. He got a nasty spinning elbow finish, and we love to see it, okay? I honestly forgot that it was originally going to be Movsar that fought Pico, but my point with this is, I think that Pico would apply the same aggression, the same heavy pressure, and just fucking go right out the gates towards Movsar, try and mix it up, try and get the fight in the pocket, try and maybe, I mean, you don't really want to fuck with Movsar on the ground, so Pico would probably want to stand and bang, and I just feel like that Movsar Evloev's wrestling would be too good. I feel like he could take down a guy like Pico who has suffered multiple losses before. He's been taken down before. I don't think he's ever fought a wrestler or at least a guy on the UFC level at all like a Movsar Evloev, and even he has underrated striking. So I feel like he wouldn't be able to squeeze the finish out like LaRound Murphy, the future champion, bro, did. But I think that Pico, even though he does have a lot of promise because he is a young contender, I think his chin would be solid and good against a guy like Movsar Evloev, an S-tier pillow puncher. But I think that the low-ish fight IQ, I think that the fact that he would be scurrying, what the fuck? The fact that he would be trying to really force to get a finish here and make a big statement. I think that Movsar Evloev, I would rate his striking better. Fucking sue me. I'd rate his wrestling better. Maybe not his power necessarily, his explosivity, or his athleticism. But honestly, I think that Evloev has underrated striking. Sue me. And I think that Pico isn't really proven that he's the UFC level yet, okay? But there's a lot of time to invest in him. I think that there's a world where he did beat Lerone Murphy, but I think that most of the time Murphy would have shown that UFC level, and Movsar Evloev would have just done the same thing, in my opinion. He's not a good matchup for Pico to work with. He's got better fight IQ, better striking, less finishing ability and explosivity, but he makes up for it with his good wrestling, his good cardio. And I feel like that other than the Volkanovskis of the world and maybe like a Lopez in a rematch, I'd be picking Movsar to beat everybody else. So let alone a guy like Pico, who's just now 0-1 in the UFC. I think that he can bounce back. I think Pico has a lot of promise. I mean, Jesus, I'm American. He's one of our last hopes for like a USA fighter in the rankings at this point, man. We don't have that many right now, but in general, Pico brings excitement. I think he can get a lot of finishes. I think him versus a guy like Ige or some matchup like that would be exciting. You know, people forget, man, him versus Nathaniel Wood. But in general, I would say that this is a hot as hell take. I'd be picking Movsar to beat Pico probably 9 out of 10 days. 10 out of 10 days. Jesus. You know what I mean? Pico can be dangerous for everybody, and I think he's going to improve. But I think Movsar Evloev would have proven that this is a guy worthy of being next for the fucking title shot against Volkanovski of all people. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that there are levels. This is a hot take, but I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, but it's a hot as hell take. You know what I mean? Moving on up next to Desmond Kaiser saying that I don't know if this is really a hot take, but I think that Gene Silva is still a top 5 featherweight, and he just had a bad game plan against Lopez. Now, honestly, I don't necessarily agree with this all the way, but if we're going to call it like a top 10 featherweight instead of maybe a top 5, I would agree with that, okay? I do think that Silva is still the best or maybe the second best of the fighting nerds. I still think that there is a lot of promise for Silva. I'm not just going to fall off of the train of the fighting nerds just because they're all on losing streaks right now. Not streaks, but they're all coming off of losses. And in general, I think the fighting nerds are good for the UFC. I think they're entertaining. I think their personalities are all fucking different from each other. You can choose which ones you want to invest in or hate or whatever, but they bring excitement. They bring finishes, and they're pretty active. You know what I'm saying? So I know everyone's just hating on them now. Everyone's just shitting on them, saying they were never good, and oh, they're proving that they aren't the top UFC level. But Jesus Christ, man, they're all young. The fan base switches up so goddamn fast, and especially when these guys are coming off of losing streaks. But honestly, I agree with you. I don't know if this is the hottest take in the world, but for the most part, I agree. If we're talking about like top 7, top 10 for sure, but top 5, I don't know, because I would pick Murphy, Evloev, Lopez. After seeing that performance right now, at least I would pick all of them to beat a guy like Silva. I think Silva in a year or two can become that top 5 level. I think he needs to work on the fight IQ above all, because honestly, like you said, he really did just have a bad game plan, but I don't think it was just that. That's the thing. That's the thing. I really believe that, Daniel. I genuinely think that it was just a strength difference. I think that Lopez was the more well-rounded fighter as well. Like, Gene Silva, sure. I mean, he's submitting Bryce Mitchell. He's stuffing down all the takedowns of Bryce Mitchell. And I picked him to beat Lopez. I really kept that into account. But when Silva was on bottom and Lopez had top position and he was just beating him up with ground and pound, and Silva just tries to explode and tries to get up, but he's so unsuccessful with it. I think that just went to show that Lopez was the better grappler, the stronger grappler, and he knows how to be able to stand and bang in the pocket on the feet and mix it up on the ground. And Silva seemed that he was just one of those things. I really rated the Bryce Mitchell win pretty relatively highly, not like top 5 or top 10 level, but it really stood out. He passed that test against his grappler. I thought that he was ready-ish for a guy like Diego Lopez. It seemed a bit rushed, but whatever. We were rolling with it. The fighting nerds were all getting that big shot. You know what I'm saying? I think that Silva, in the second round specifically, like you said, it wasn't even a bad game plan. I just think he was rushing in, man. He was having good moments in the second. He was winning. He was outstriking them. He was throwing really dynamic, versatile shit. It was crazy to see. All of a sudden, Lopez makes him uncomfortable once again on the ground. They get back up to the feet, and this guy is just throwing shit for his life. Like Conor McGregor would say, he's throwing for his life, shooting for your life. I'll put my balls on your forehead. I think that Silva, if he applied a bit more patience and focused a bit more on the technicality instead of just rushing in and just scrapping in the pocket and just like going headfirst against a guy who is as dangerous and as slick on the feet as Diego Lopez. I know it's a lot of tism. I know he's not necessarily in his own right the most patient or technical fighter, but Lopez spent 5 rounds with Volkanovski. He's developing the fight IQ. He's developing just not just rushing in like a bull. Like he can. It is his style. You know what I'm saying? He's not exactly Mr. Fight IQ. He does kind of rush in a bit, but even then, Silva just shot himself in the foot. I think that he was the one who was just rushing into dangerous exchanges that I think he trusted in his chin because it got him up to this point. But Lopez hits harder than a Bryce Mitchell or a Melza Baldessarian or a fucking Charles Jourdain. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Silva, his striking is very good. It's very dynamic and it's very powerful. It's just fucking instant transmission. It just sneaks up on you. The power is insane. I think it would knock out a lot of guys in the rankings. I think that he still could be a future champion, but he has to work on the fight IQ, man. He can't just rush in. I think that he was looking good in the striking. I think if he kept that up throughout the later rounds and even round 3, 4, 5, well, no shit, that's the later rounds. But I'm just saying, I think that he could have won those rounds and maybe even gotten a finish. Lopez was getting pieced up, but he just showed an experience level, man. Silva has to go back and work on the grappling, and he has to work on the cardio, you could argue, or the fight IQ, whatever it was. But in general, I think Lopez was just a better man that night. And right now, I think he would beat him 8 out of 10 times or something like that. Silva's good, really rate the striking highly, and I think that his takedown defense is solid. I think Lopez is really good, so that's why he was beating him the fuck up. But he's really got to work on the grappling, especially on the defensive end of things. And overall, this is a hot take, but I semi-agree with it. You know what I'm saying? I think Silva's still going to go far, and I'm not just going to fall off of the hype train. It's not even a hype train anymore. It's just a goddamn train, okay? Chew, motherfucking chew. Moving on to the next one we got. Coming from Harsha Tomas, saying that 205 light heavyweight is the worst division in the UFC right now. It's full of one-dimensional strikers except a few. I mean, here's what I was saying earlier with the Chimaev versus heavyweight thing that I was going to reference now. I believe that heavyweight is the worst division in the UFC. Some people say light heavyweight like you, and some people say flyweight. I think flyweight is cooking right now. I'm going to be honest, man. The Unks, the prospects, the champion, Joshua Van on the rise as well. Like, I think Tetsuya Taira, like, I think flyweight is cooking. They're active. They're putting on fun fights. The rankings have been really shaken up, man. But when it comes to heavyweight, I just think that even compared to light heavyweight, it's just more shallow of a division. Like, at least most of those guys were on win streaks to earn their way into the rankings. Heavyweight, man, you could just earn your spot in the top 10 or 15 just by losing. Rizvan Kuniev proved that. Even Taliesin Teixeira's win over Justin Tafa. I mean, Valter Walker, he's a guy that's on a good streak right now, putting together like 2 or 3 pretty good wins, maybe even 4. I don't know. I think it might just be 3. But the point is, he's just in the rankings. He's getting like a big opportunity after another fight or two, I believe. So I just feel like anybody that's nearly a prospect at heavyweight, they immediately just rush to the top. Like, look at Delija. Delija, man, just got a knockout over Tybura. The UFC is gleaming their eyes. They are Looney Tunes harding their eyes. They're popping out of the sockets because they finally have someone that could be a prospect or someone to invest in for the division. So, yeah, what was the question? Ante Delija. Yeah, we're giving this guy a 1-month turnaround, and he's taking on Cortez Acosta in the Apex. Yeah, I genuinely think that they're pushing this guy quick now, and it makes sense. And at least with light heavyweight, Zhang Minyang, he would have had to fight Johnny Walker and then like a Rakic and then like a Roundtree Jr. At least he had to move his way up. Like, I think that light heavyweight is full of a lot of strikers. Jesus Christ, let me list off the rankings. It mostly is strikers. Pereira, Prochazka, Oberg, Roundtree, Blachowicz, Hill, Reyes, Rakic, Ozdemir, Mirzakhanov, Guzgov, Walker, Krylov, Menefield, and Zhang Minyang. I don't think I named a single person whose primary style is grappling. So I got to give it to you. It is full of a lot of more one-dimensional fighters. It is full of a lot of strikers. And the closest thing you can get to a wrestler is Magomed Ankalaev. But as we've already discussed, he is a guy who's primarily a striker in his own right. The fact that we have to say, his wrestling is going to be the biggest test for Pereira is because he was the closest thing to a grappler we could have found. You know what I mean? So I do disagree with this. I think that heavyweight is the worst division we're dealing with right now. I think it's kind of its own league. I at least rock with 205. At least these guys are fighting each other. Like, I'm hyped for Prochazka and Roundtree. I'm hyped for Oberg versus Reyes. Like, there's good matchups that we're cooking. Minyang versus Walker, even though it was kind of crazy that Walker ended up winning. Like, the fact that happened and the fact that it was a fun fight, like, at least shit like that occurs. Half these heavyweights aren't even fighting each other. They're just plopping it up. I feel like they are the least. It's crazy to say this because they are professional fucking fighters. They're killers. They can fucking whip my ass, and most people on earth. But I do think that they are the weakest competition in the UFC right now, the lowest level of skill sets. I think that when you get to that top 5 and 6, Jalen Almeida and above, I think they're pretty good fighters. But overall, man, at least like heavyweight, there's guys like Guzgov ranked 11, and he's on the rise. There's guys like Reyes, who great comeback story. It's at number 7. There's guys like Menefield, who fights like a goofy goober, but at least he's going out there, and most of the time he's putting on like random bangers against like people who are making their debut and shit like that. But at least there's stuff like that, man. You got people to invest in at the top, like Prochazka, Pereira, Roundtree, motherfucking Carlos over. You know what I'm saying? So I think if the division had a better champion, I think light heavyweight could be cooking. And I think that if you mixed in a little bit more guys who are a little more well-rounded, shit like that, I think that light heavyweight is a clear kind of tier below like a welterweight or a middleweight. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to just like defend light heavyweight. I still think it's probably the second weakest division. I'm talking about it like it's the top 3 best division. I genuinely think light heavyweight 205 is the second weakest division, but I still think there's a gap between that and heavyweight. Is my point. You know what I mean? Like heavyweight, man, like how are these guys in the rankings? You know what I'm saying? Shamil Gaziev and Ante Jalisha are the prospects, and if they lose, man, you're fucked. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I'm going to disagree with this one. I don't think it's too hot of a take either, but honestly, I think a lot of people would agree with this. I think a lot of people would rock with this. And I think most people would really see what you're saying because Lord knows I fucking do. Jesus. So I respect this one. I understand it. I almost want to agree with it. It's the second worst division in my opinion, though. You know what I mean? I will say you're very right about it being full of one-dimensional strikers, though. Definitely true. Moving, and I want to say this about the wrestlers that are in there, like a guy like Blachowicz or a guy like Prochazka, like they can mix it up. They can shoot takedowns. They do have good takedown defense, but you know what I'm saying, okay? It is full mostly just fucking strikers. Those guys are going to stand and bang most days. Moving on to the last one we got here, coming from Peyton G and saying that my boy Max Holloway has the best chance at 155 to beat Ilya. It hurts me, man. Especially, I just did Holloway bogus. Look at your screen. It's just him getting fucking. He's up here, and then he's down here on the ground. I'm sorry, okay? I love Holloway. It is what it is, but I got not to fuck out. I genuinely think this is a hot take, though. I think that Saryukian could have a better chance. I think it's also helping because we've already seen Holloway fight Topuria, and I think that Holloway gave Topuria a lot of problems. More problems than Volkanovski, more problems than Oliveira, more problems than Josh Emmett. You know what I'm saying? So Holloway did give Topuria his toughest test. He did win a round or two off Topuria before the knockout, and I rate Max Holloway's striking very highly. I think the move to lightweight was great for him. He's properly bulked up. He's beating Gaethje and Poirier, which 2 or 3 years ago was like an iconic title run. So you know what I mean. So I think that Holloway could give a lot of problems to Topuria at 155, but I think that his chin has been going down just a little bit lately. I think Topuria hits just as hard, if not harder, at 155, and the fact that he was able to be the only one ever in all of the fucking UFC experience that Max Holloway has, he came in as an infant. He's only been knocked down once by Gaethje. It was almost, you could argue, like one of those just flash knockdowns. But in general, that was the only knockdown that he ever received. And then Topuria goes out there and he knocks out the soul of Max Holloway. He flatlines him, and I feel like that says a lot. You can say whatever you want about Holloway having to cut back down, and in general, I understand that, but I really feel like that was his weight class that he was the most comfortable with for just most of his career. I know he's getting older. I know we obviously bulked up for the Gaethje fight, but you know what I'm saying. I just think that we got a pretty good Max Holloway that showed up against Topuria, and he still got flatlined. He did last to the 3rd round, but the fact that I even have to say that as a good thing is kind of crazy. So I think Saryukin can maybe give more problems because he's a bit more well-rounded. But other than that, man, that's probably it. I mean, honestly, maybe this isn't too out of a take. Maybe I don't disagree that much. Honestly, I think Holloway would probably be the second, in my opinion. Third, if I'm including Islam Makhachev. Like if Makhachev came back down, I would say that he'd be the third artist. But in general, I think Holloway would give more problems than like Oliveira, obviously, or Gaethje, Hooker, Pimblett, Gamrot, Dariush, Fiziev, Moy, Kano. I'm just naming off the rankings now, but you know what I'm saying. So in general, I do think this is a hot take. I think there would be more intrigue, and I could really believe this if we didn't already see this fight happen and it ended the way it did. But unfortunately, I don't know why I gotta laugh there. It's sad, man. It's sad. We all love Holloway. I've heard that this rematch could be in the works. Like Topuria got asked, oh, like is it gonna be Pimblett next or Gaethje or Saryukin? And he said none of them. And honestly, I could really see the UFC. It wouldn't be too surprising if they gave Holloway a rematch and then that goes down in like January or February. I wouldn't be too crazily hyped about it. I would want to see Holloway win like maybe 1 or 2 more, but and maybe Topuria gets like a fresher matchup, but I get it, man. The division's down bad. None of them are fighting each other. All the top contenders are just sitting out waiting for Topuria to choose them like a fucking Pokemon when you pick your starter. But that's just not how the title shot thing should work, man. At least Holloway's coming off a win over a legend like Poirier, and it was a fun fight, but and then you could put the BMF title up for grabs this time, and there could be that intrigue. And now it is at lightweight because, like Peyton is saying, Holloway could get it done, or at least he has the best chance. But I think Ilya is just too good. I think he's ever improving. I think that he's the more well-rounded fighter. And again, he's the more powerful striker. Holloway's chin was always amazing. But the fact that Topuria knocked him out, the fact that Gaethje knocked him down, and Poirier knocked him down shows that at lightweight, his chin is still great, but it can be taken out. It can be less invincible as it was before. It's not that invincible chin aura that he was rocking with going into every fight, knowing that this guy probably wasn't ever going to knock him down. But now he has to kind of think even more because he is consistently kind of getting knocked down in his last 3 fights. So I rate Holloway's striking and his chin and his cardio and overall his skill set, his takedown defense very highly. I think Holloway is a top 15 fighter of all fucking time, okay? But in general, I think that Topuria is right in that same ballpark, but just better right now, man. Holloway, I could see him in like a year or two if Topuria moved up, winning like a vacant belt or something like that, beating Pimblett, Paddy Pimblett a lot. But in general, I think that right now Topuria would be too much, okay? And that's going to be it for the takes, boys. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you so very much for giving me your time and attention. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very much for making this far in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, man. Let me know what you think of my opinions. Let me know what you think of the takes by y'all. And in general, let me know your hot takes. I'd absolutely love to hear it. So my boys, have a good time watching the card this weekend. I'm running a half marathon. It's probably going to go bad, but it is what it is, man. We're having a good time with it. I appreciate y'all a lot. All the smoke here. Be safe and have a good one this weekend, boys, and I will see you all next time.